Jesus Christ, I cannot do I have tried to do this video like 20 times now. And I keep like saying stuff that's not funny. Like I'll say jokes that I know are lame. And then right after I say them, I like try to play it off. You know how I do that sometimes? I'll say something that's supposed to be funny, but it's not. And I'll just be like, oh, guys, I can't get them every time. And then, it kind of almost reminds you how unfunny it was to begin with. That's what kind of efforts I've been making trying to post a video right now. I'm up in Big Bear, California, which is the mountain range above San Bernardino. So that's where I was in county jail. Victorville is located in San Bernardino County. I don't know, it's weird. There's like bad energy here, And I came up here for my birthday, but I also came because Karina and I are trying to buy a house, trying to buy our first house. Can't afford one in LA, but we can afford one here. You can get a house here for like $300,000 or $400,000, $500,000, which if you're in other parts of the country may seem like a lot. In California, that's in Santa Barbara, where I grew up, you can't even get a condo for $500,000. It's like Jeff's condo is like a little 2-bedroom where I used to live at $600,000. And then that's not even including the HOA fees. The mortgages are high, depending on what kind of loan you get. But it's just like, we can't live there. We can't really live in LA. So, we just can't afford it. And I do want to purchase something. I don't know. It's important to me. So we came up here for my birthday, and we also came just to kind of look at houses. Now I'll say this. This place is fucking bizarre. Mountain people are odd. I did time with mountain men, and I kind of expected everyone to be like that. And I don't really know how to describe them. Like, it almost feels like people up here haven't progressed with the rest of culture. Like, we went to a grocery store, and there were people wearing like satin disco button-ups with like bell bottoms. And they were like doing like the peace sign. I'm not even exaggerating. It was like a bunch of people. I felt like I was in some like timepiece film that took place in the 70s, but it's here. So there's that. And then there's a bunch of really angry rednecks, And right when I got here, so we're like at some desolate cabin, right? Right when I got here, I was like, hey, let's, we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Let's check to see if there's any sex offenders. Let's get on Megan's Law and let's look them up. And you can get on the website, you put the zip code that you're in, and they pop up like measles. All these red sex offender ants just bustling across the computer screen. I don't know what I was expecting, and I don't know why I did that to myself. Especially like we're like in some lake house. I don't know what I expected to see a bunch of like, lakeshore child molesters wearing Jason masks or something. But I put it in, and I couldn't believe it. The entire screen was red except for like one white dot. And the white dot was like moving. It was like leaving sex offender mountain. I was like, Jesus Christ. I don't know if I want to live here. And, especially in the winter. Could you imagine? Bunch of sex offender snowmen. Like you go out and they don't have a carrot as a nose. Just a bunch of snowmen with carrot cocks. And you see like the toothless guy in the flannel. He's like, hey, you guys want any cookies? And Karina would be like, okay, I love cookies. No, babe, don't do that. Don't fucking... We're the only non-sex offensive... Sex offensive? We're the only non-sex offender couple up here. It's just kind of a weird vibe. And I'm not joking about the sex offender thing. It's disproportionately high. It's almost like everybody like got ran up here from San Bernardino and LA. This is the PC of mountain places. Like if you are GP, you go to Aspen, Colorado. You don't go to Big Bear, California. This place is fucking weird. I don't think we could live here. So, it was my birthday. I kind of took this time to reflect. Definitely grateful for everything that's happened over the last year. I got a platform, and that's great. And I really appreciate each and every one of you. Pressure started mounting for me. Like, I don't know, becoming a dad, constant demand for content, which is fine. But I think if I learned anything from this trip through self-reflection, it's that I must find a balance. And I think as drug addicts, that's very hard for us. I think it's true what they say, that you essentially stop developing when you start getting high. I started getting high when I was 9, you know? And things are pretty much the same. I masturbate a lot. I skate. That's it. That's all I do. That's all I did when I was 9. That's all I do at 35. But it's about finding that balance, you know? It's like, okay. And I think that that's going to be my trip moving forward. It's like, if I could just wake up and find a structure. Okay, I'm going to do videos for 3 hours. Imagine if I just woke up and did videos for 3 hours. And it's true, I must be in the mode to do a video. You know, I tried to do this video literally like 20, 30 times. No bullshit. Maybe someday I'll do a whole series where I do bloopers, because they're kind of, you know, I don't know, they can be funny. But it's like sometimes I just can't hit jokes on the note, or maybe like I'm not in a good mood. I've been kind of depressed lately and I'm coming out of that depression. But I don't know, I was just having trouble with the comedy stuff. So I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, not all of my shit needs to be funny. I definitely have some more serious stories, and I kind of want to continue where we had stopped before. This would be Centinella Part 2. There's the whole Wasco stuff, but it's not as eventful as Centinella moving forward. And since I'm kind of in like I don't even think depressed is the right word. I'm just fatigued, you know? So I feel like you guys like the kind of stories that aren't necessarily funny. And they kind of, you know, sometimes they develop into that anyway if I don't try too hard. But I was trying too hard earlier. I was like, yeah, I mean, do you ever feel like you're just a clown's bitch? Like, fill up the bathtub with whipped cream. I was saying stuff like that. Like, yes, absolutely no punchline, not funny at all. And that's that. So let's get it. This is Centinella Part 2. What, by far, Centinella was the most hardcore period of my entire 3 prison terms. This is by far the scariest, the most violent, and probably I masturbated the least amount of times during this period. Although that might not be true. My masturbation's problematic. So let's get into the story. So where we had left last time, I just got to Centinella. Now, I didn't know I was SNY. I don't even think the state really determined that or not. Maybe it was in my record from county, because I know that they can see that. They saw that I'd gotten beat up and I essentially refused to PC up. But that's not necessarily allowed. I mean, you don't really get to make that call. A lot of times they make that call for you. It doesn't really matter, because mentally I'd prepared to make that transition anyway. Talked about it a lot. I chose to be a father over being a convict. I truly think that when you're incarcerated over any prolonged period, I've done 3 terms at this point. A lot of jail time before all that. I'd say that I was a convict, not an inmate. And there is a difference, and some people talk about that. An inmate is the kind of guy that follows the rule book. You know, he's like, Bob? Yes, Ryan? It's 9:15, the light's still on, man. The rule book says 9 o'clock, lights out. So, I mean, such a bitch. I'm sorry. Do you want some commissary out of my locker? Yeah, I do. All right, here, Bob. And then I just give them. Now, that's an inmate, right? Convict does what the fuck they want. And that's it. They absolutely no reverence towards law enforcement. Committed to the lifestyle. Usually missing teeth. Usually get cheated on. Oh, she loves me though, dog. I swear to God, she loves me. Fool, I just lost my... That's what they say in prison. You always hear that about people with their girlfriends. They go, nah, dog. Mine, she fucking loves me. I just lost my... What do they say? I just lost my my place in line, dog. But when I get out, I'm gonna fuck her again, fool. I'm like, yeah, that's... Sounds like a really solid relationship. It is, dog. We got kids, fool. That means we love each other. So do you see? Like, I'm trying to do voices and I just can't do it. I'm 9 minutes in. I'm not going to just stop just because I'm making mistakes. Maybe I just shouldn't try voices today. I'm really worn out, you know? Maybe that's it. But basically what I'm trying to say is guys in prison are used to, for the most part, completely disingenuous relationships. Where it's really sad. Where, you know, they'll say stuff like that. Like they lost their place in line, but when they get out, hey dog, when I get out, she knows who daddy is, fool. I swear to God, she knows who daddy is. She's a bomb ass bitch. My bitch is so bomb. And you're like, you're cool with your girl cheating on you? It's my bitch, dog. My girl is Selena Gomez, fool. That's my girl, dog. I swear to God, if she saw my cock, she'd want to fucking hang out with me, fool. They say stuff like that, I swear. And if you've been around Southsiders, you know what I'm talking about. Really weird stuff, you know? So if you don't have a real relationship out there, and a lot of times that's what they think a real relationship is, that they have kids, then you have no reason not to commit entirely to this convict life. And I was like that for a long time. You know, I didn't have kids. My first girlfriend, Jenny, on my first term cheated on me and then died while I was in there. So I had a sour taste in my mouth. While my second term, my wife left me. My third term was the first time I had a real relationship. Karina was like solid. You know, she was actually there for me. Just had a new baby. Had parents that hadn't given up on me. Had a ton of friends that were writing me. I had reasons not to stay in there. So mentally, I'd already made the choice to walk the line and to go from Ryan the convict, where I don't give a fuck. Oh, fucking keister light switches. You feel like you put your ass up against a light switch, you're like, watch. You like turn the light off, you're like, yeah, learn that in YA. You always meet guys like that. They're manly, but they can stick like fucking, pine cones up their ass, you know? It's always like the measure of bravado is like how much stuff you can stick up your butt. Stuff that you don't even need. You have like a bottle opener. Hey, just in case we get alcohol, dog. Always be prepared, my guy. Always be prepared, dog. Stuff like that, right? So anyway, I had done a lot of soul searching before I got to Centinella. Never in a million years did I think that I was going to be in the position that I was, where I was SNY, Dirty was SNY. We had this black dude named AZ that was SNY, then a couple Southsiders. We knew that they were going to mix us, but we had no idea that it was going to be as bad as it was. Like the last time from the last story. Where basically we had to like pump ourselves up just to go to chow. And then a riot of that magnitude cracked off. 25 guys coming from this direction, 25 coming from the other, completely sandwiched, ran towards the cop, got maced, got zip-tied, got taken back to the cell. Then we went out again, and the second time I didn't want to go. You know, Dirty had, he had basically talked me into it the second time. And I don't really remember where we left off last time, but what had happened, I'm pretty sure I explained, when it did crack off the second time, there was a group of white guys, skinheads. It was clear that they were just as scared of us as we were of them. And they basically asked if we were going to do anything to them. Now, Dirty and I were both pretty like tatted up, and we're both pretty big, right? We both had size on us. These guys were a little older, and I'm sure to like an older guy, I mean, it's just how it is. The older you get, you just kind of know what time it is. The younger guys that are in shape are going to smash you the fuck out if it comes down to it. And I think they knew that. They were old, GP, but they weren't on shit, I shouldn't even say that because they ended up being really nice guys, but it was obvious that they were scared of us. And that's a big, big component of prison. I've talked about it a million times. A lot of the violence that transpires in prison is fear-based. It's like preemptive, like, oh, I'm going to stab this guy before he stabs me. I'm going to be down for my race so that if something pops off, they're there to protect me. And people hide behind their race. Now the whole dynamic shifted a little bit because it was PC versus GP. So we ate dinner with them. They told us that we're cool. Like, there's no problems from us. You know, like, you don't have to worry about when those doors crack, we're going to go at it. The general rule of thumb, and what I was preparing to do anyway when I thought I was GP, was when you get off that bus, you have 72 hours to get off the yard. That's it. If you don't take off on someone or catch a battery is what they wanted, then you're considered no good. These guys had already been here a few days and they didn't take off on us. So now they're PC too. And that's the one thing in my mind that we had going for us, is that every day that went by, the group of people that we were with were considered on the other side now, and our numbers kept growing and growing. But anytime a bus would come, it would start all over again. And that's very true. That's exactly what happened. Now, we were on a level 3 yard at Centinella, and it was an SMY yard, but we weren't allowed to program with the SMY. We were confined to our cells, 2-man cells, but it was interesting because we were in a housing unit. So we'd sit in our cell and we'd watch these guys watch TV, play dominoes, use the phone, shower. That's what we spent a lot of time. Oh, hey, dude, that hot tan dude's going to shower. And Drew's like, no way. Oh. He looks at me. It is bomb. And that's pretty much all we did, right? So we get back, and so the way orientation worked is this. When you hit a main line, especially like we were going to a 1 yard. So I don't know if they have orientation for every level because I'd never been through the state system. But at Centinella, to get to the 1 yard from the 3, you had to go through orientation. You had to see a committee. Committee's like basically a parole board. It's like the captain, a lieutenant, a case manager, a counselor. They all sit at a table. You go in there and they go over your case with you. There's certain things that would preclude you from getting on a 1 yard. If you're a sex offender, you can't get on a 1 yard. So they screen you, make sure you don't have any priors. Because the reason being is that they don't have fences on a 1 yard. I mean, they do, but they're, I don't know, 6 feet tall with no razor wire on it. So in theory, you could just jump the fence if you wanted to. So they can't have sex offenders. They can't have anybody that would be considered a danger to the community because they're liable for it, Like, say you're some, like, rabid sex offender and some meth hits or something. Do a line, and you just have this insatiable urge to butt fuck someone without their consent. You're like, I gotta butt fuck someone. And then you just, like, get all fucking steamed up and, like, starts spewing out of your nose, and you just are like, blah, and you just hop the fence. And, like, you're out in the middle of the wilderness at Centinella. You wait, and you see a hunter hunting for a deer. He's crouched over. Looks like a solid, non-consensual butt-fuck candidate. And you go and you rape him. And then he calls the cops. And he's like, dude, I just got butt-fucked by some rabid tweaker. And he had prison clothes on. Well, guess what? California State Prison, Department of Corrections, they're responsible. They can't have that. They can't have wild butt-fuckers roaming the wilderness that surround the prison. So they also make sure that you don't have warrants. It's a liability thing. You got to make sure you don't have enemies, no warrants, no sex crimes. Now, you would think that they'd know all this shit before you get there. Why would they even ship you to a fucking mainline if they didn't know this, right? But nothing they do makes sense. I think a lot of it is the way that the California Department of Corrections operates. There's all these kind of pointless hoops that an inmate must jump through to get to the final destination of where he's going to do his time. My personal theory on that is that it basically provides job security. If there was no reception, if you didn't have to go from county jail to Wasco to a mainline, then the guys that worked at Wasco wouldn't have that job security, would they? They need that. I mean, this is a fucking industry. You always hear people talk about privatization of prisons for profit, and how that should be outlawed outright. Every prison is for profit. Prisons finance small communities. You go to a town like Soledad, you think that Soledad would have any economy without the prison? There's like a McDonald's, a Taco Bell, and the prison. And that's it. That is the town. Those prisons support those communities. Without them, these communities would just go belly up, right? A collective lack of financial resources if these prisons didn't exist. So therefore, makes sense for them to make these completely arbitrary hoops, right? Okay, well, now you have to go to Wasco. Now you have to go from Wasco to Centinella, and you have to do orientation. And that can take a week. That can take 6 months. You're locked up the whole time. So you're basically in solitary confinement, but you have a cellie. So you're basically in the hole. And that's where we were. Now, after that second thing that cracked off in the chow hall, remember, that was 2 riots in one day. After the second one, we go back to our cell. And, you know, I don't know how to describe it. Before you'd go to chow in a situation like this, it's so volatile. You know, your adrenaline is pumping so hard. Your heartbeat. You know, it's that kind of adrenaline where you get tunnel vision. You know, everything almost seems like slow motion because you're so focused on the fear. You know, you're scared. It's a scary situation. You know, imagine being in a situation like that where every time you leave your cell, there's a good chance something bad's going to happen to you. It's a horrible thing. And then as soon as you're like done, so after you go to chow, you come back and nothing happened to you. It's like this weight's been lifted off your shoulders, and it's almost a high in itself. And I remember, you know, Dirty and I talking, talking about what to do going forward. So it seemed like the bad apples had gotten off the second time. So the guys, the Southsiders that weren't going to stay, because there were no white people. It was all Southsiders that were involved with the riots. Those were the ones that were pushing the issue. Those were the ones that were tripping. And we heard that Norteños were on the same trip. They couldn't allow it. Now, I understand it to a degree. These guys have made a commitment to the gang, right? They don't have, and the gang is supposed to come before everything, as silly as that sounds. That's their family. Someone like me, I had a commitment to my family. Those are the people that meant something to me. I didn't give a fuck about all these toothless carnies that were trying to tell us what to do. So we talked about it, and we said that we were going to go to chow in the morning. What we did anticipate is that another huge busload of people came in that night. This was like the most super serio GP guys you could ever fucking imagine. The face tattoos, the area code mustaches, you know, they all walked like they'd been butt fucked because they probably had a fucking machete sticking up their assholes. I mean, these were the most serious looking GP guys ever. I'm like, should we ask them if they're SNY? And, you know, Dirty's like, okay. And he was the one that was good at sign language. So he's asking them once again. It's all GP. All of them. At least that's what they're telling us. Now, we counted, it was about 30 new people. So I tell Dirty, I said, you know what? It wasn't that bad. You know, we didn't get hurt either time. Dirty's like, are you fucking nuts? This is a whole new group of people. And these people looked a lot crazier than the people we'd already gone at it with. I'm like, you know, at this point, I'm just sick of like running from the problem. I just want to face it head on. You know, the first time I was all about it. Dirty wasn't. Second time, later that night, I didn't want to go. I was scared. And he's the one that talked me into it. Now, once again, Dirty doesn't want to go in the morning. He's like, I'm not going. Fuck that. I'm like, come on, man. I'm going. I'm not going to eat just because there's some guys from Fresno with their fucking area codes tattooed below their nose. That sounds silly. What am I going to do? Write my chick and be like, yeah, babe, I haven't been eating because I'm scared of grown-ass men? Another man is preventing me from eating when I'm hungry? Fuck that. He's like, all right. So we're just sitting in there. One of the skinheads had shot us like, couple, it had given us some shots of coffee. So we're drinking that, we're getting all high, and we're just like kind of, I don't know, we're worried about the morning, but not as worried as we were. We'd already survived a couple of them. How much worse could it get? About an hour and a half later, we're sipping on our coffee, we're just doing our thing. Chewy comes by. Hey guys, hey, can I have a word with ya? What's up, Chewy? He's like, hey guys. And he's like, looking both ways. Now, the way that those doors are configured, there's like a little crack to the side, right? So you can talk to someone through the door, well, like I'd be talking, he has his ear to the door, and then vice versa. When he's talking, we have our ears to the door. Hey, can I get a couple words with you fellas? We're like, okay, what's up? He's like, hey man, hey, so I was doing my, my duties as a porter, and one of the GP guys, hey, just so you know, I am SNY, Special Needs Yard Inmate, okay? I'm in here for killing a cop, okay? You'd always say okay with everything. I'm in here for killing a cop, okay? I dropped out because I'm with my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He looked like Fire Marshal Bill. Let me tell you something. It was like that kind of shit, right? I swear, this is exactly how this guy looked. Show Dirty this video, and he'd be laughing hysterically because, it's exactly how this guy talked, as silly as it sounds. And what he had told us through the door is that he, being a porter, he goes and mops the range. Another thing that porter does is they pass notes, they pass drugs, they pass tobacco, all that. Because when there's a lockdown, the only way to get things from point A to point B is to give it to the porter. Now, and this is how silly general population politics are. That you can't talk to SNY, can't do business with SNY, but if there's a really important kite, really important note that needs to be passed, and it's the only way to pass it, let's trust the SNY. Let's trust the rat with like very important messages. So, and that's what they had done. They see him mopping the fucking tier. They give him a kite. So he had intercepted this kite that was supposed to go somewhere else. And he's like, hey, instead of me explaining it, why don't you just read it? Slides it under the door. We take it to our desk. He's like, I'll be back. Read it, and I'm going to come back for it, okay? Don't lose it. It's like, dude, I'm in an 8x10 cell chew. How the fuck am I going to lose a little piece of paper? It's neither here nor there. So Dirty and I go and read this message. And what it says is they have knives, right? We don't know who's they, but it says basically that they had shivs, right? They had shanks. And they had 16 of them, and there's 25, or I think 26 or some shit. 25, I don't know. I remember it was like a weird number. Whatever. So let's just say 25. 25 or 26 homies. So we knew that they were talking about Southsiders because it said Sur, or whatever, S-U-R. It's like written in their weird little codes, but when you do enough time, you can decipher what they're saying. Basically what this note was saying is that they didn't have enough knives to give to the homies, but tomorrow they had orders from up top. They were supposed to put holes in us. That's all it said. It said, go at the time of the plan or something. It said in some riddle, right? And that was just in case the shit got intercepted. So what we got out of it was that they were going to move on us with knives. We didn't know where they came from. But there was a GP yard, level 4 yard, right next to the level 3 that we were on, and it is possible to get things from that yard over to our yard. And what Dirty and I mean, of course we read that and we're tripping. We're like, all right, so basically there's 16 knives and none of us had knives. We could make our little bullshit one out of soup wrappers, like I think I was explaining last video. But what are we going to do against that many people that have weapons. And we didn't even know who or what. We just knew that there was that many pieces. So we're kind of just like looking at each other puzzled, and Chewie comes back to the door. He's like, hey guys, hey. Comes to the door, he's like, hey, all right. When those doors crack, what I would do is get a mattress, hold it up as a shield, because I think they're going to come in and they're going to just run in the cell and they're going to slaughter you guys. Oh, man. I fucking hate GP. Let me get the note back. We're just like, I mean, that's what he's telling us to do. He's telling us to get a mattress and use it as a shield when the doors crack. Why we wouldn't just slam the doors so that they can't, because that's one thing that had happened. And Chewie had told us that there had been coordinated attack a couple months before we had ever even gotten there, right? So when we had gotten there were those two Southsiders that had been there for a month. And they had told us that there was never, they never tried to mix them at all while they were there. And then one night, as I explained, they were eating chow, and all of a sudden, all the GP comes in. And one of those guys ended up getting his nose broken, and they got written up for fighting. But what Chewie had told us was about, I don't know, a month before those guys had even gotten there. The first time that they tried to mix people, it was a similar situation where they knew that it was going to go down, and I guess they had brought a bus load of SMY in. And that's what we had heard was happening a lot around the system. That buses of SMY would come in, and they just drop them off on the yard, and the GP would be waiting with knives and just slaughter them. You know, Braveheart style, you know, just like some wild ass shit. Like big full-blown riots would break out. And what Chewie had said is about a month before those guys had gotten there, before they tried to mix them, group of SMY had come. And in the morning, when they cracked the doors, the GP had already been waiting. They had knives. They ran in the cells and just started stabbing them. And we're like, oh, that sounds cool. Sounds mellow. And after that brutal attack, I think like 9 people got stabbed. They didn't try to mix them again until those two Southsiders that I was talking about, until that happened. Then we were like the third batch of experimentation, you know? So just think about how that feels. Like we're like literally just an experiment and see what'll happen. All I had to hear was that there were 16 knives. The Southsiders, this was already a pre-planned attack on us. Where I told Dirty, I said, you know what? I don't want to go. You know, I don't want to go to Chow tomorrow. He's like, me neither. It's not worth it. You know, he's like, we'll probably see committee and we're going to be good. Okay, cool. What are we going to do for food? Now, I didn't have any money on my books. Dirty, you know, he was basically homeless before he got busted. He had gotten 4 years for falsifying information to a police officer. He got pulled over. He was in one of his friend's cars. It wasn't even a stolen car. He had a warrant, so he gave false information to the police. Well, he already had a strike on his record from when he was younger, so they ended up giving him 4 years at 85%, which is outrageous, because that is a waste of fucking taxpayers' money. But anyway, he didn't have anything on his record that would be like questionable. He didn't have enemies like that were on paper, and he didn't have any active warrants. Well, I didn't have any of these things either. So I thought that as soon as I saw committee that I'd be able to go too. I didn't have any money on my books. He had like 200 on his books from tattooing. He tattooed while he was at Wasco and people had put money on his books. He also had a wedding ring. The wedding ring would be worth like $500. And yeah, it's the kind of thing where like one of the few things that you're allowed to have when you're in prison from the outside world is your wedding ring, because it's considered like a religious sacrament. Is that how you say that? Religious sacrament. So what you find a lot in prison is that there's a bunch of wedding rings on the marketplace. People sell them because, well, a lot of times people go to prison and their wife starts sucking the neighbor's dick or something and then writes and tells them about it. And, you know, once in a while you'll find a guy that's like into that. He's like, oh, dude, my wife's just straight sucking my homeboy's dick right now. It's not hot, bro. And you're like, nah, I mean, I've never been. My girl sucks another dude's dick. I'm going to kill both of them. Move to Big Bear. All the other weirdos around here. Sex offender mountain. So, you know, basically until that point, the ring. So Dirty had this ring. And he told me that as soon as he hit the main line, as soon as he hit the 1 yard, he was going to sell this ring. It was worth like 500. He's like, I'll sell it for like 200. Get stacked up with commissary, buy myself a tattoo gun, start hustling and making money. Okay, cool. Well, that was before we heard the plan that the Southsiders were basically going to take off on us. And there weren't enough so-called SNY where we were like in the clear. Like we were definitely going to be one of the targets. So we just decided not to go to chow. We stayed up all night because we were drinking coffee. Doors crack at, 5:30 in the morning to take us to chow. And we just get up, we slam the door. Slam it shut. We're listening. Like we watch everybody go to chow. We're listening. We're like, I don't hear a siren. Nothing went down. We're just about to go back to sleep. You hear, and you just see cops running. And we kind of like look down and we just see like 10 cops running out of the building. We're like, well, we knew that was going to happen because luckily Chewie had intercepted that kite. That could have been us. Now, we didn't know what happened right away. But nobody comes back in for at least 2 hours. So we definitely know something major went down. Finally, we start seeing some people come back in. It was a couple hours after they went to chow. Covered in blood. A bunch of people just like blood all over the place. Right? All over their clothes. Because we're all wearing like these like, light blue California State Prison scrubs. You see a bunch of people zip-tied coming back in. Like I said, a lot of blood. Definitely, you could tell that there had been like some knife fighting involved, because you don't see that kind of blood when it's just regular fist fighting. Like when you see blood like this, like I'm talking about half the shirt's covered in blood. Multiple people look like that, Southsiders. Finally, and we didn't see our friends, the skinhead guys. We didn't see those guys. We never saw them come back in. So we didn't know what happened. We talked to Chewie, and Chewie said that just like he had called, a bunch of people got stabbed. There was like 5 different people that got booked, and that the cops had confiscated 9 knives. So there's still about 7 of them left, which was obviously disconcerting to us. Now, if you don't go to breakfast, and then we see the skinhead guys come back up, and they look up, and they're just shaking their head. They're zip tied, shaking their head, all traumatized. They didn't have blood on them, but people got stabbed, just like Chewie had said. I have no doubt in my mind if we had gone to chow that day that would have happened to us. If you don't go to breakfast in the California state system, they don't give you your lunch, because that's how it works. You go through the yard, you go to chow, they give you a paper bag lunch. So it's 2 meals at once. You bring your sack of lunch back, and then you eat it whenever you get hungry. It's really depressing. And then they open the door again and you go for dinner. So Dirty and I are hungry, but we're both like, nah, we're not going to go to chow. So chow comes, and we're starving, by the way. We don't have any food. We're asking people when they walk by, because we see people shower. Hey, man. Yo. Hey, you think you could shoot me and my celly some sopas? Just a couple soups, dog. We're fucking hungry. Nah, I don't got it like that, pero. You don't have 50 fucking cents you can give two guys that are scared of getting stabbed? And I don't speak English though, fool. All right. Gracias. I'm just like, all right. Fucking checks out. So dinner comes. By this point, we're so hungry. Even if we went to chow, I would probably faint from having an adrenaline rush while we're that hungry. You know, I mean, in jail and prison, you get even hungrier than you would normally, or you feel hungrier because you're so depressed, and it's one of the only things that gives you temporary relief is just to eat something. Kind of distracts you for a moment. But when you're in a situation where literally every time you walk out of that cell, it's a liability, it's not even worth it. So chow comes, crack our door open, slam it shut. Dirty's like, I'm hungry, bro. I'm like, I'm hungry too. What do you want to do? He's like, I don't know. If something doesn't happen right here during this meal, then let's definitely go in the morning. All right. So we watch everyone go to chow. Within 10 seconds of them leaving the door, cops run out the door. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, we're in a war zone. Straight up. Go to sleep. Next morning we wake up. We're so hungry. It's like ridiculous, you know? Dirty looks like he's aged like 9 years. His cheeks have sunk in. He's like, I'm so cold. I'm like, I don't even think you're cold. I think you're just hungry. Door cracks open, slam it shut again. I'm almost in tears, you know? And one thing that I appreciate about this particular term is I've been homeless before, and I remember what it was like to be hungry. But even homeless, I could do crystal meth, butt fuck. Hi, Nikos. Sorry, I gotta censor myself. Our baby just came in. Bye, Nico. Daddy's working. God, I said the BF thing right when he walked in. That's not good. Even when you're a homeless tweaker, you eat. This is like straight up nauseatingly hungry, dizzy, about to faint. You know, you're talking about two guys that have been working out quite a bit. Muscles take a lot of calories to sustain. And now we're just cut off from all calories, just dying. Well, that particular morning, cop came up to our cell and he goes, hey, Leone. His name is Smith. Leone, Smith. Hey, come here. Why aren't you guys eating? Dirty's like, dude, are you joking? You guys have made us like walking targets. Why the hell would we go to chow? Like, well, yeah, but I can't not have you guys eat. You guys are going to have to man up and go to chow. Besides, me and Larry, we both got our money on you boys that you boys will win. What the fuck? So now you're betting on what happens if we lose? He's like, you die. I don't think you're going to die. You guys look too buff for that. And he actually said that. Too buff, fucking weirdo. He brought us 2 lunch sacks. We were like dying. I remember there were some graham crackers as like one of the sides, and like we were like licking it. I was like, dude, do you think we'll get sick if we eat the plastic? George was like, I don't even care. I was like, me neither. And we just started eating it. So that day, they call us both for committee. And we just look at each other. We're like, no way, dude. We're out of here. Cool. We go to committee. It's just me and him. Nobody else. You know, sometimes they put you in a group of other people. We didn't even have to mix in a group. It was just him and I. Go to committee. He goes in first. You know, anyone that's not going to committee has to sit out in this little waiting area or whatever. He comes back all smiles. He's like, yep, they approved me. I'm going to the 1 yard. Cool. I go in there. And they're like, Mr. Leone. I'm looking at them and like, I remember The captain was this black dude, and he was going like this the whole time. Like super nervous, biting his thumbnail. Mr. Leone, it says here that you have a warrant for pimping and pandering. Black guy was like, do ya? I'm like, I'm in here for pimping and pandering. What the fuck are you talking about? They're like, well, apparently you have a warrant in Santa Barbara County for pimping and pandering. So we're not going to be able to release you to the 1 yard until we clear that up with Santa Barbara. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, you're looking at about 90 to 120 days in the hole till we straighten this shit out. Black guy's just like, it's like one of his eyebrows is like raised. I'm like, dude, can you stop doing that, man? What do you mean 90 to 120 days? I said, do you know what kind of hell I'm living in? Well, we don't make the rules, Mr. Leone. Like, it's Leone. All right, go on now. Go on. We'll see you in about 90 to 120 days now. Bye-bye. Bye, cousin. Have a good day. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. You know these guys are hitting the pookie when inmates aren't in there trying to do orientation. So, you know, Dirty's all smiles. Yeah, dude, I'm going to the 1 yard. Like, I can't wait. I'm going to start tanning. I'm like, you know what, dude? I don't get to go. He's like, why not? Because I have a warrant. He's like, what? For what? I said, well, I don't really have a warrant. These fucking idiots just think that I do. Dirty's like, shit, man. I don't know what to do. I was like, what do you mean you don't know what to do? He's like, well, I mean, maybe I should just stay with you. I'm like, can you even do that? He's like, I don't think so. But I can try. I'm like, stop being ridiculous. He was all happy. He was trying just to be cool. So, you know, I'm like, well, are you going to go to chow with me tonight? It's like, hell no. Why would we go to chow? I'm like, dude, I don't know about you, but I'm really having a hard time. You know, I'm like having a hard time, you know, with just the idea of going somewhere knowing that they have knives and that they want to stab us, and that we're not armed like that. You know, it was like just a really, really scary prospect, right? So Dirty is like, listen, if they don't call me to go to the 1 yard tonight, because now they have to wait, you know, they'll like take a group over there. There was a bunch of people in orientation waiting to go to the 1. He goes, listen, if I don't go to orientation with you, or if they don't take me to the 1 yard, then let's just go to dinner tonight. I'll go with you, because they're probably going to take me in the morning if they don't take me tonight. I'm like, all right. So the cop walks by a couple hours later, and Dirty's like, hey, man, you guys taking a load to the 1 yard? Cop's like, nah. Dirty's like, all right. He looks at me. He's like, guess we're going to chow. Okay. So I remember the lead up. Now remember, every time they had chow, every single time that they had chow that we didn't go, the sirens went off. People had gotten stabbed multiple times. We still knew that there were other knives, though, and we knew that we were a target. We were for sure a target. We weren't even going to chow. So it was definitely going to be noticeable when all of a sudden we just go again. So again, we kind of pump ourselves up to go. Now, it also, both of us were literally starving at the time. So, I mean, it was the kind of thing where we really didn't have a choice at this point. I mean, we're both, you know, I don't know, 190, 200-pound guys. We needed food. So, leading up to that dinner, I remember the adrenaline really started pumping about right around count time. Because you know when they do stand-up count around 5 o'clock, you know that that's what they do right before dinner. So they call stand-up count. Dirty asked the cop, he's like, hey, are they going to mix this? Cop goes, oh, you know it. Like he was some game show host or something. We were like, what the fuck? All right. Like, it's like the cops got off on the fact they're putting us in just some ridiculous danger like this, right? So finally they call chow. Now we hadn't been going So we didn't really know the dynamics of it. Like, did we go first? Were they going to release the so-called GP? Who is GP? Who is SNY? You didn't even know at this point. There were so many new people there. We knew that they were that something was going to go down, though. Because every time they had gone to chow, the siren went off at least within a minute or two. So they opened our doors for chow. They let us out first. So we're going first and they're going to go behind us. We just both look at each other. We're like, you know what? Let's just do it, man. Same plan as before. We're going to put our backs to the wall. We're going to bring our soap in the sock. If anything's going to go down, just stand up against the wall and start swinging the sock wildly. Hope that you hit one, And that's that. So we go, and I remember it's the kind of thing where, and everybody's felt this, your heart is beating so fast that you can literally see it kind of, breathing through your shirt. It's like, and you can hardly hear anything. We have our hands behind our back, and we just start walking across the yard. Cop is escorting us. We look behind us, see at least like 40 people. Some GP, some SNY. We see our skinhead friends. Fuck it. And just kind of look at each other. We're like, all right. I mean, it is what it is. We get to the chow hall. We go and we grab our trays. Heart still beating fast the whole time. We do that L. We see group of guys forming behind us. We go and we sit down at this table. So we're sitting and a couple Southsiders that we didn't even know sat with us. And we just start eating. Of course, I'm looking up, taking a bite, looking up, taking a bite, looking up. Always like aware of my surroundings. Just knowing, not even feeling, just knowing that shit's about to go down. So we see this white guy. Never seen him before. Definitely a skinhead. He's got the lightning bolts tattooed right behind his ear. He gets his tray and he just looks at Dirty and he mad dogs us. Now, more S and Y guys had come in, but we didn't know who was who or what was what. I mean, basically, if you'd been on the yard for more than 72 hours, like I said, you're S and Y anyway. I'm watching this guy with the skinhead, the guy with the lightning bolt tattoos, because he looks angry. He walks right past us, and there's this older guy. His name's Twitch. He's sitting there eating his dinner. So he has his bat. He's has his little spork in his mouth. He's scooping food in there. And you see the skinhead dude just throw his tray down. And he just takes off on this guy Twitch, this old guy. This guy's like in his 50s. Twitch falls backwards. The guy starts stomping on his face. Just starts like brutalizing him, stomping the shit out of him. Now blood is just like is cascading out of this guy's eyes. I don't know why, but it was like coming out of his eye socket. I think he broke his, whatever that thing's called, orbit, whatever the fuck that bone's called. Now you see the cops come up and they're like, hey, stop. And they have their mace out, but they're not macing this guy. This guy just keeps stomping on this old guy's face. The guy's not even fighting back. He just like kind of curls up in a ball, and he's like holding his face. There's so much blood, you'd think the guy got stabbed. And this guy is like, wearing these like suede canvas shoes, but he just keeps stomping on his head, stomping, probably stomped on his head 20, 30 times. The guy's like not even moving anymore. Finally, the cops spray him. They handcuff both of them. Now Twitch is like talking to himself, mumbling. Cop lifts him up and just sprays him right in the face. This is after Twitch had been knocked out. They take these guys out, right? Everybody in the chow hall is just kind of looking at each other. Captain comes in there, right? Captain, I don't know, he comes out of somewhere. There's usually like 20, 30 cops in the chow hall. And they're all just like, everybody's looking tense. And the captain just stands in front of everybody, goes, all right, guys. All right, gentlemen. I am sick of this shit. I am sick of this shit. You guys want to go at it? You think you're men? You guys want to fucking get wild? Well, we're going to lock you guys in here. You get a fucking freebie. It's on us. Huh? Get it out of the way, gentlemen. Get it out of the way. And he instructs the cops. He goes, every single cop leaves the chow hall. They lock us in there. There's about 60 men in this chow hall. I don't know who's SNY, who's GP, but everybody's staring at each other. You could hear a pin fucking drop. Everybody's looking at each other. We're locked in. He just said that we could go at it consequent free. And by the look on everybody's face, everybody is fucking ready to do exactly that. Free riot. About to go up in flames. And we will continue with the Centinella State Prison saga in the next installment. Had to get a video to you guys. As you can tell, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, but I'm trying to dance for you guys anyway. Appreciate you. See you soon. Palabra.